Are you looking for affordable office space in Marion? The Professional Building, located at 685 Delaware Avenue, is the place for you. For more information, call 740-383-6803. Office space is now available. Again, telephone number 740-383-6803.
This is Scott Spears, and today's going to be a fun day as I'm joined by Don Tootle, maybe better known by his clown name, Toots, a member of the Aladdin Shrine Clowns, to fill us in on all they do. Don, it's so great to be with you.
Scott, happy to be here.
Now, the first thing I have to ask you is, how long does it take to do this? You've told me, but I want the audience to know.
Well, a lot of it depends on what we're doing. We joke among each other that are we going to put on a parade face or our good face? A parade face, you see people about 20, 30 feet away, so they don't see all the flaws as far as the lines, etc. But it takes about an hour to put it on. Not when you first start, but I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I can put it on about an hour now.
What kind of makeup do you use? I mean, I imagine in the summer with the parades, the heat.
Well, there are several manufacturers, and some of them come and go. The manufacturer I first started using happened to be a product called Stein's. They're out of business now. Switched to a Jim Howe. Jim Howe is a former Ringling clown who made a brand of makeup, and he's since retired. So I'm going to have to find a new manufacturer. Fortunately, I have a lot of those products still left that's going to get me through the next several months until I find an appropriate product. But there are several different vendors for clown products out there.
And I'm sure there are bad vendors, just like in everything, where the makeup doesn't hold up.
Yes, and it depends on almost your chemistry of your skin. There's an excellent product I tried once. I loved it. It went on very easy. But it started flaking, what we call your muzzle around your mouth here, and so consequently I couldn't use it. Works very well for other people. A lot of it depends on your dietary intake the day before and things like that, believe it or not. But in the summertime, people say, "Aren't you hot in that?" And really, you can rub this; it doesn't come off, and you can go swimming in after your makeup application. But summertime doesn't bother you that much. What bothers you the most is wearing this, the long sleeves, long socks and everything, and when it's 90 degrees out in the hot weather.
Now, how do you choose what you're going to come up with? How was Toots born?
I started out, there are basically four types of clowns. The white face, as I am, and I started out as a white face, and I still am a white face. I occasionally will do a tramp character. But there's also a second character called an Auguste, and these are the clowns that you see with flesh tones. All you see here is white and red and black. Auguste clowns are flesh tones. Then you have your tramp and hobo characters, and the last one is just your character clown. And that could be anything, like a baker, a firefighter, or occupational character. And people say, what's the difference between a tramp and a hobo? A tramp is a person who's just down on their luck, does not choose to be that way. A hobo is a person who enjoys not being broke, but they're happy-go-lucky. I think two classic examples, if you remember Emmett Kelly, who was a classic tramp clown who was just unhappy all the time, versus the Red Skelton character Freddie the Freeloader, who was an upbeat, happy hobo. And so there's a distinction between those two characters.
When you were putting this together, how do you come up with what kind of makeup, what kind of nose, what kind of tie?
Well, I was I think Aladdin clowns, the shrine clowns out of Aladdin Temple, are I believe one of the premier temples in all of North America. We consistently win good awards. I happened to be an apprentice for 3 years before I was good enough to become an active clown. And one of the first things you look at is when you put your lines on is what we call, how does your face travel? And if I can do a demonstration here, if I look straight on at the camera here, and then all of a sudden like this, you see how my cheeks pop up, my mouth pops up, and those are called travel lines. And I go like this and like this, and it makes a difference. And those are the things you play around with and fine tune until you realize what works well for you. As far as the nose, that's individual preference and things like that, or color wig. And I'm bald in real life. I'm bald as a clown, so I chose a bald red curly wig.
As real, if Don in real life, because obviously you came from something else, why did you decide to do this?
I live in Dublin, Ohio, and I joined the Shrine back in the '70s, and I saw the clowns in the Dublin St. Paddy's Day parade, or not the 4th of July parade, and I thought those guys look like they have a lot of fun, and so I said I think I'd like to do that. So what it did in real life, it's an escape from reality and puts you into an alternate life. And the hour it takes to put on your face, you become a different person. And I found that such a great stress reliever, and I have had great joy in being a clown.
You know, that kind of leads right into my next question. How is Don different from Toots?
Okay. How am I different from Toots? I have what I think is a good sense of humor in real life. I enjoy sharing my joy of life, both in and out of makeup, but I think clowning is the ultimate experience of sharing your joy of life with others, because unless you have a claustrophobic, or not a claustrophobic fear, a phobia of clowns, everybody loves clowns, whether it's a small child or a geriatric individual. Everybody loves clowns. And one of the things, we just finished the circus, and one of the things I had when I was working that I had to remember is in clowning at the circus, everybody smiles when they see you. All of a sudden, you take your makeup off, and you think you're that same person when you go out in public life, and you start to say hi to a small kid. And no, danger, stranger, get away from me. And you say, oh, I'm not in makeup, I better back off. And I'm no longer Toots the Clown, I'm Don Tootle.
When you run into somebody who you maybe know has this fear or phobia, what do you do? How do you react?
Well, one of the things we do at the circus is take pictures with the clowns. And a lot of parents want to have their child, sitting on a clown's lap, and you can tell almost as soon as they come in if that kid is just terrified of clowns. And we tell them, don't force your kid. Come back next year, because next year they might run and jump in your lap. But I think it's too traumatic for the kid to be forced into a clown. And you recognize that, because as soon as they see you, they get this terrified look in their eye, and you back off, and you don't force yourself on that child, or even that adult.
Yeah. Now, I've attended the Aladdin Shrine Circus for 2 years now, and this past year, Don, you, I think, were the only clown that I saw with a speaking part.
Well, I was the one with the microphone. The other folks spoke, but because not all of the clowns have a microphone, I repeated what they said so the audience could hear what the dialogue was, but I'm the one with the microphone, yes.
Now, how did you evolve into that role?
Just by chance. We try different guys in different roles, who works well at what, and I've been basically the speaking clown for the last 2 or 3 years anyway.
Now, I thought, and maybe it was just my perception of what was going on that night, even though you are a clown, you seemed like the rational clown of the bunch.
Okay. There is a distinction. I mentioned the all-goose clown. They are usually the butt of the jokes. The white clowns are usually the individual that's administering the joke to the all-goose clown, and they're the recipient of the pie in the face, or the seltzer bottle in the face, or something like that. And it's usually the white face who's doing it to that individual. So, and of course, the tramp, they're the butt of everybody's jokes. They're the people that get the kicking of the seat and things like that.
Now, you were out there, I went on Saturday evening. A lot of people out there. I don't know what the attendance was, but a lot of people during those shows, up in thousands.
Yeah.
Any fear of that?
Fear of
going in front of all those people and performing, speaking?
Oh, there's always some anxiety, especially the first show or two. Am I going to get my lines right? But I've been doing it for so long. I don't. It doesn't bother me that much, because and with the lights on you, you don't see anybody out there. It's all black. And public speaking is a number one fear of most people. Fortunately, I've done a lot of public speaking, and it doesn't bother me that much.
Now, when you go out there, do you know exactly what you're going to say, or do you just know what the effect you want?
Uh, we 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 have an award that's given to the person who makes the most mistakes, and I've been the recipient of that award on a couple of occasions. Uh, but I know for the most part what I'm going to say. With that one skit, what we call the Ugly Clown skit, I did turn things around a couple times, but our motto is FFF, fast, fluid, and flexible. And so we ad-lib a lot.
So when you're working with a group, because the Ugly Clown skit, for those who don't know at home, you were presenting an ugly clown who was just hideous.
His first time in makeup, and we were ashamed to show him, so we covered him up.
Covered him up with a blanket, and we're letting other clowns show him. The clown's fainted, and then finally the payoff is very good. Should we tell the payoff?
Our payoff, and we try it a different way. Usually we bring another clown in to take a look at him, but this time we brought someone out of the audience. Basically, we had clowns look at this ugly clown, he was even uglier in makeup than he is in real life. They passed out at the sight. Women and children ran for the fear of their very lives at the sight of him. We brought a guy out of the audience to take a look at him, and our ugly clown under the sheet passed out at the sight of the guy in the audience, and that was our blow-off for that particular skit.
So when you're doing a skit like that, because that was maybe 3 to 5 minutes long.
Sure.
When you're doing something like that with 6 other guys, if you decide to change or ad-lib what you're doing, does it throw them off?
Oh, absolutely. And you get a mark in the dressing room and a recipient of the screw-up award. Yeah. So, no, we try to keep it very consistent. Yeah. And remember, we're entertaining the people out there, not ourselves.
Is the loss of consistency just memory, or is it wanting to change?
It's usually fatigue.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
As I mentioned, we do 3 shows a day. We get there around 8 in the morning, don't get home until after 11 at night, and we work very hard. And some of us are seasoned citizens, and we do get tired. Usually it's fatigue because of the mishaps.
How many years have you been doing the Aladdin Shrine Circus?
I've been doing it a little over 20 years. We have one guy there who's next year will be his 40th year in the circus.
Wow.
One of our tram clowns. His name is Jack Bope. And and we had a couple newbies this year. So there's always an evolution of new people, new blood coming in, yeah.
Has something with the clowns during the show in your 20 years ever really went wrong? Really? I mean, to where it was just unfixable?
Oh yeah, I can think of screw-ups I've had, and I'm not sure I can say it on the air when I used a profanity. When I said, "Who the heck do you think I am?" And I didn't say heck.
Oh, tossed it up there.
That was where fatigue entered.
Now, when you do something like that, is there a troop leader who comes back and says something?
Well, unfortunately, I was the troop leader.
Oh, you were the troop leader then.
Yeah, I was director of the clowns for about 10 years, up until a couple years ago, and then I passed it on the torch to someone else.
You know, something that's interesting to me is when a clown's out there, how do you stay up? Because for 3 days you're doing this 14, 16 hours a day. Is there ever a time when you just say, "Ooh, boy, I'm exhausted"?
Oh, yeah, every day. But usually, again, bringing that sense of joy to other people's lives and bringing laughter into their lives, it's the adrenaline rush that you get. Right before we go on, you get a surge of adrenaline. Usually it's right after that, you're heading back to the dressing room, or you have to go out to the photo booth. Boy, that's when you're dragging, yeah. But no, not when you're performing, no.
In the show that I went to, and I think the last 2 years, there have been 3 or 4 bits per show with the clowns.
Uh-huh.
How were those bits chosen?
We have probably about 30 different standard shows that we do. So we repeat them about every 10 years. The Ugly Clown happened to be a new act that we did this year. A couple of years ago, we did the guy who ate too much, and we started pulling things out of his stomach. And the blow-off when he gets up and he says, "Boy, I'm hungry." You know, we pull a pizza, cheese sandwiches, you know, just a whole variety of things out of his stomach. And that was a fairly new one. We have a new one, the Great Aladdin, which has a great visual effect at the end. where the clown appears to be floating in the air. That's a fairly new one, but we try to come up with new skits. We go to conventions, see what other clowns are doing, and share ideas with others, and or see something and then it evolves. We kind of brainstorm it out and say, how can we make that skit better? And so that's how skits evolve.
Now,
and some of them are standard, have been around forever, that are classic acts.
aside from the Aladdin Shrine Circus here in Ohio, do you perform anywhere else throughout the year?
Yes. When we perform, usually we get compensated for it. Now, we don't get compensated for the circuit. That's all voluntary, but the money does go to the shrine. Our philanthropy is the shrine hospitals. And when we do perform, and we form a lot of corporate events and parades and things like that, we do get compensated for that. And all that money goes to the shrine hospital. So we don't get anything out of it. It's 100% voluntary. But we make money for the shrine hospitals.
For people out there who hire clowns, I know they're still in demand. What is the difference between a regular clown and Aladdin Shrine clown? Because you said you thought felt it's one of the premier groups.
I do. I think it's one of the things that makes us unique is the standards that we set. Like I say, I was an apprentice for several years, and it's because a group, the actives, had to say, yes, you are good enough to be an Aladdin clown now. There's a lot of people who think that they just go to a store and buy some red, white, black makeup and just smear it all over their face. And usually what happens is they're too garish looking. They put a huge mouth on and maybe a huge nose and big maybe blue around their eyes and a big afro wig out to here. And really, it's frightening to kids. If they come out a kid and the kid, my gosh, what's wrong with this guy? I do play Santa Claus at Christmas time, and Santa Claus from a distance looks fine, but all that beard and all that hair, when a kid gets up close, it can be very intimidating. And that's usually the mistake a lot of first-timers. First-time clowns are called First of May. And that's usually when the circus starts for the year, and they start for the year. That's just the side. But that's the mistake most people make is they put their features on their face are too huge.
When you come to the Aladdin Shrine Group and you become an apprentice, what could go wrong? And how would you go to somebody and let them know that it was wrong?
Oh, we're very frank in telling them. It said, this line is not right. This mouth is not appropriate. We're very critical. To be a clown, you have to have a thick skin in our group. But that's one of the things. We are a very tight group, and we love each other dearly. They're the best people in the world, best friends. But if you do something wrong, or you don't look just right, they're going to tell you. So that's you have to have a thick skin.
That being said, over the years, and obviously we're not going to use any names, but what have you seen happen where maybe somebody just wasn't getting it right?
Yeah. I've seen a lot of very good, successful people, and it's amazing. For example, we had a stockbroker once who, oh my gosh, he was just like this in real life, and just very deadpan, but my gosh, the transition that happened to him when he put his makeup on, it was just amazing how lively he became. And but there are some others that just don't, they learn how to put makeup on, but once you do that, then you have to learn how to become a clown, and you better have some shtick or something that entertains other than just looking like a clown. Because a kid come out, okay, you're a clown, now do something to make me laugh, and you better have be able to learn balloon art. Have pocket magic, something that makes you a clown.
What is if somebody wants to do this, if somebody out there right now is watching and maybe with another group says, I want to be a clown, what makes a clown successful? Number one thing.
Oh gosh, Scott, I'm not sure I have a good answer for that.
It's a tough one, yeah,
I know. To be a good all-around clown, I think you have to look like a clown. You have to be a clown in your heart and your mind, and also to be able to entertain. If you have all those elements, I think you're going to be a good clown.
Now, we've talked a lot about it here. Drop the name, at least, the Aladdin Shrine Group.
Sure.
What is the Aladdin Shrine Group, first of all, for people who don't know?
Okay. Well, a lot of people don't know what the shrine is. The Shriners are all Masons. Every Shriner that you see has a Masonic background, and it's the fun part of Masonry. And the philanthropy of the Shrine is supporting the Shrine hospitals. There are 22 Shrine hospitals throughout the country, all throughout North America. There's one in Mexico City and one in Montreal. The other 20 are in throughout the United States. Closest one here being the Burn Hospital in Cincinnati, and an orthopedic hospital in Lexington, and the other closest one is in Erie, Pennsylvania. Those are where we send our kids to that have these issues. I think we're very fortunate too. Aladdin is one of the few temples, shrine temples in the country that has our own local clinic here. We started that back in the 1950s, and Dr. John Keene out of Children's Hospital, one of the best pediatric surgeons, orthopedic surgeons around, is our medical director. And we treat kids locally through funds that we have out of Aladdin Temple. And I think an interesting fact is to support the hospitals, it takes over $20 a second. Every second that goes by, another $20 it takes to support these 22 hospitals. So it's a great philanthropy. When we go to entertain at these hospitals, it's very emotional to go to the burn hospital because they get the worst of the worst. But the orthopedic hospitals, a lot of these are congenital deformities where the child is born with a particular problem, the orthopedic problem, but they've adapted. They've grown up with it, and they don't think they have a problem because they are so adept at functioning, doing activities of daily living. But at the burn hospital, these are kids who were basically normal kids, and they might have 3 extremities burned off, or just their whole face is disfigured. And you know that they are suffering, but it's such a joy to go down and perhaps make that kid smile or make them laugh. And that may be the first time they've laughed in months, and it's such a joy. But it just tears your heart out to see that.
Can any child go to the hospitals?
Yes, the care is absolutely free. You have to be referred by a Shriner. The problem is people don't know to go to a Shriner and say, hey, my kids needs help, or I need help financially. Can you help us out? And absolutely we can. The care provided is 100% free. Transportation to and from the hospitals are free, and even housing for the parents while they're there is often free.
Now that's fascinating, Don. Now, how would somebody who's watching this right now, because I think that's an important thing to say, how do they get in touch with a Shriner?
Well, they can call Aladdin Temple, and 475-2609, area code 614-475-2609, and say, I have a child that needs some help. Can you help me? And they'll pass you on to the right person.
Now, what doctors work in the Aladdin hospitals?
They are full-time physicians, and often, at the Shrine hospitals, most of the physicians are full-time employees of that hospital. They're salaried by the hospital there. A lot of them, the secondary physicians, are closely affiliated with the local children's hospital, and so they're on the staff of the Shrine hospitals too.
Mm. That's a great thing to know. Now, the Shrine Temple, I know a lot of people talk about that. What is that?
The Shrine Temple, that's just our house, place where we're located. And if you live in the Central Ohio area, probably many of you have been there at other functions. We do rent the space out to help pay our bills there. It's a huge facility right on Stelzer Road. And if you haven't been there, go down there and take a tour. It's have many rooms available for rent, and a big auditorium. In fact, it's the biggest auditorium for rent in Central Ohio, I think. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, one of the things you said there, Don, that I didn't know, I think a lot of people would not know, and a very interesting thing is that you have to be a Mason
Sure.
before you can be a Shriner. Now, for years and years and years, people have had weird, I mean, it was a secret society, people thought for years, the Masonic group.
Yeah.
What is that group for people who want to know?
The Masonic body is just a person who wants to improve themselves into being a better person. And are there secrets? Yes, there are secrets, but I'm very public and proud to say that I'm a Mason. I have been for almost well, since 1965, however long that is, and there's it's a organization that just makes you a better person by being a Mason. And I've never been sorry I've joined the Masons. It's not a cult. It's not a secret society. It's a society with secrets. But basically, that's it, Scott. It's nothing more than that.
Why are there secrets? Because that's what gives it the stigma.
Yeah.
What is it you could say that would be a secret here today that I wouldn't know, not being a Mason, that would offset the group? Why are there secrets?
I think that's I don't know.
No, it's an interesting thing, but you can't.
I think it's like fraternities. Fraternities in college have their secrets, a secret ritual. There are a lot of, I think, perhaps that's the reason the Masonic bodies have that too. I don't know, to be honest with you.
How did you get involved with the Masons?
I have always been impressed with the people I met who were Masons. My dad, my uncles were Masons. Both my grandfathers were Masons. Other people I met in life were Masons. I thought, there has to be something good about this because all of these are quality people. I'd like to be a part of it.
It's interesting, and then we'll move on past this, but
Yeah.
I found that very interesting because you say your family. Now, when it comes to this, like you say, it's not a cult, it's not
No.
that type of thing. When your grandfather was a Mason, your father was a Mason, and you knew there was something different about them, the two-part question is, were they ever allowed to tell you what these secrets were when you weren't a Mason, and why does it make you better? Now that you are one.
No, they were never allowed to tell me that. I think it makes me a better person because I'm associated with people who have high standards of moral ethics and they're upstanding citizens. Most of your presidents up until Kennedy were Masons. Harry Truman and George Washington were Grand Masters of their state. They were that high up in Masonry, but up through Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan, and back through history, Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, all of them were Masons, and that's a pretty good group.
Could you tell a difference between Don before joining the Masons and Don after?
I think it reinforced things that I valued. It reinforced my own personal values by being associated with people like that, and from that standpoint, yes.
It's interesting.
Yes.
Has it ever caused you any trouble? Because I know there is that weird stigma to it from people who aren't.
No, not really.
Good.
There are certain religious groups that really are anti-Mason. Why, I don't know. I've never had a good reason. It's never been explained to me what the rationale is for that. But no, I've never suffered any personal consequences. No.
Is it a religious group?
No, absolutely. There's one thing that you have to believe in a supreme being, a supreme architect of the universe. That all of this was put together by a deity. You have to believe in God, that He put all this together. That's the only thing. And I know Muslims that are Masons. I know Jews that are Mason. I know Catholics. There are 2 or 3 Catholics in our group, in the clown group, and that never used to be. And of course, many Protestants.
It's very fascinating because I think it's an interesting group. And the real final question this time about Masons. If it isn't a religion, what would you liken it to? Is it a service group? Is it a self-help group? What is it?
There's a philanthropy associated with Blue Lodge Masonry, the basic element of Masonry, when you're a 3rd-degree Mason, and that is they have a learning disability, sponsor philanthropy for learning disabilities. Scottish Rite Masons, they sponsor philanthropy associated with schizophrenia. The shrine is obviously based around the disabled child and burned child.
It's
so there's
great.
a lot of philanthropy associated with it.
That's great to hear.
And like when you each where we're talking, remember that $20 a second.
That's building up.
It's building up. Yeah.
Absolutely. What would happen if you did tell a secret?
Well, nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The secrets of masonry are not that secret anymore.
Really?
They're available. Go to a local library. You can find out most anything you want to know.
Would you feel uncomfortable saying one?
I don't care to,
Okay.
but there's for example, the insignia with I'm blocking on the insignia of Mason, the ruler, the compass and square, compass and square. Inside that is a little letter G. That letter G stands for God and geometry. That's something most people don't know.
Why geometry?
Because it's a very exact science, and that's part of the masonry goes back to the before the Middle Ages. There were masons, and there were even masons that built King Solomon's temple. A lot of our ritual work is based on King Solomon Temple, and you couldn't have built that temple without geometry.
See, what interesting conversation we got into there. That's fascinating. I learned a lot.
Aside from clowning.
It is. I learned a lot there.
Yeah.
Why is it important, do you think, to be a mason, to be a Shriner?
Well, because the shrine evolved out of masonry. There's a group of masons who got together and said, you know, we're a serious group. We do a very, very good, serious work. There has to be a fun side of this organization, and that's how the shrine evolved back in the late 1800s.
Don, you say you've been clowning now 20 to 30 years?
Over 30 years, yeah.
30 years, wow.
Which tells you how old I am behind this face.
How have you evolved in 30 years as
I think
a clown?
I've become a better clown. I'm a much better clown than I was 20 years ago, and not nearly as good as I hope to be down the pike. As long as I can keep on clowning, I hope to keep on clowning for some time, as long as the body holds up.
Not anything to you here, Don, or your age, but are there clowns in wheelchairs? Are there clowns 90 years old?
Oh yeah. There are clowns in wheelchairs. Probably not. I have never seen a clown in a wheelchair that I can remember anyway. I think it's kind of heartbreaking to see a clown in a chair. You know, it's tough to see. I mean, regardless of what character you are, it would be tough to for people to see a clown in a wheelchair. But there are many clowns that are over 90 years old. One of my very dear friends, he's passed on, but he was 93 and still doing parades, and God rest his soul. His name was Al Maddox, and many folks might know him because he was very active in masonry and a very visible character. And he was a Keystone Cop, and I know many clowns in their late 80s and 90s.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great thing. Maybe it is. Laughter is the best medicine.
It sure is.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Don, one thing you said there when we were talking about the burn unit that I found very profound. Of course, you go in, and it's got to be heartbreaking to see these kids.
Yes.
How do you pull off being a clown when inside you're just broken up?
Oh boy. You have to hold it. You certainly, as a white face who brings supposed to be a happy person, you can't do that. But I've become very emotional many times. One story I even have a tough time talking about. This happened to be a kid who was deaf, and I was entertaining him, and he gave me a hand sign. I was a new clown. I had no idea, and I said, "Mom, what did he say?" He said he wanted to tell you he loved you, and that.
Wow. What you can do. Don, 30 years, over 30 years as a clown. What a great memory. Yeah, my goodness. What's your favorite memory, though, happiest you've ever been as a clown?
Oftentimes Sunday night when the circus is over.
It must be grueling. It must be.
Is. Yeah. Oh gosh, there are many favorite things. I think the happiest we are sometimes going to and from events. We have a bus that we take to and from events, a clown bus, and it's the camaraderie of the clowns going to and from events, and the laughter we share among each other. Obviously I could recite many good experiences interacting with kids, but it takes a lot of work to be a clown. As I mentioned, driving to and from an event, putting this face on, being at an event, it takes several hours just maybe for a half an hour event. But and oftentimes you say, "Oh boy, why did I sign up to do this?" There is never one event that I've gone to that I wasn't happy. Boy, I had a good time. I'm glad I did this, and it's worth it. You certainly get much more out of it than what you put out, because it's such a joy being a clown.
When you're in the get-up,
Yeah.
Don, when you're in the rig here, if I wanted you to be serious, we're having a fairly serious
Yeah.
conversation here, but if I wanted to talk current events, is that something as a clown you don't do? Because I think there have been clowns who have done that. Certainly Flippo, we talked before we went on the
Yeah.
air. I think a lot of people said his show was probably geared more toward the parents, the humor.
An adult,
Yeah.
yeah.
What are the rules for that, or is that your own personal rules?
Well, certainly you're not going to be confrontational and talk politics with kids, with adults as a clown, or do anything that's inappropriate. We don't make fun of any groups. We don't make fun of women necessarily. It's not our event. It's not our intent to make people angry. It's our intent to share our joy of life with each other, and make them happy, make them laugh. And we don't want to press anybody's hot button, certainly.
Yeah. Don, I was thinking.
I mean, we all have our personal views and opinions, but I'm not going to share them in makeup.
If you took the makeup off, is Don a?
Do I have strong opinions?
You have strong
bet I
opinion.
do.
There you go. Well, maybe we'll get to that someday without the
Yeah.
makeup. We'll get around to that.
Okay.
Did you ever look up to a clown on television that you saw?
Well, Flippo was the one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I admired him. As I mentioned, I happened to have an occasion to meet him in real life, and I knowing his clown makeup was great. He was a very, very funny person. Yes, he was someone I admired as far as his being a clown. Yeah.
In your history, do you study clowns now, maybe more than you did before you were one?
Yeah, let me share. There are other shrine clowns I know throughout the country who I admire greatly, and because they are just naturally funny people, and God love them, they make it worthwhile knowing them, and because they share their joy of life not only with other people but also with other clowns, and so those guys I look up to also. Mm-hmm. And I forget your last question, though,
No.
and I wanted to interject that.
No. Do you look at clowns now and say, boy, differently, since you're a clown?
Do I look at them differently?
Like the clowns that I would look up to, I certainly think Flippo's one.
Sure.
Certainly Central Ohio.
Yeah.
But the ones that stick out in my mind, I gauge it by, if I know a clown's real name,
Yeah.
then I probably watched a lot of them. And Red Skelton would be one.
Red Skelton, what a great icon. His character in Freddy the Freeloader it was just fantastic. And Red Skelton was also a Shriner too, and very active in masonry. Just a naturally funny guy, high moral standards, never did anything inappropriate as a clown he's absolutely, I'm glad you mentioned him. He's certainly one of the premier people at the top of the list.
Then I think there were three bozos that I thought were very good. Larry Harmon, Bob Bell,
Yeah.
and Joey Dioria.
Yeah.
I thought they were all great.
Yeah, and I don't know much about those characters. I remember Bozo the Clown. Couple of interesting side notes. Do you happen to know who the first Ronald McDonald clown was?
Willard Scott.
Willard Scott.
We've had
absolutely.
him on.
Oh, have you really?
Yes,
Yeah.
we have.
Yeah, and the Captain Kangaroo happened to be the Clarabelle the clown of my age, and so a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Little factoid.
Yeah, exactly. First Ronald McDonald, and I think it came from being a bozo on.
It might have been. I
in
don't
Washington.
know the history there.
I
Yeah.
believe there was something
Yeah.
about that. Don, what's the future for you? How long do you want to keep doing this? Is it even in your mind, or do you just want to do it forever?
I'd like to do it as long as I'm good at it. Like I say, I might be a certain age here, but I'm still 25 between the ears, and I think clowning keeps me young. And for that reason, I'd like to continue to do it, because I still get a thrill out of bringing a smile to other people.
25 between the ears, but the body ages, heaven forbid, all of us. Have you ever noticed
at the circus, for example, when I drop something on the floor, I used to go down and pick it up. Now, if I'm with a kid, I said, "Would you mind picking that up for me?" So.
It's interesting, Don, because I've talked about clowns we've had on the show before. If you took this off, I wouldn't know you.
Probably not.
But also in that, I wouldn't know how old you were. I'm sure the people, and you told me before you went on, but I never would have guessed that.
Yeah.
It's interesting, I think.
Well, in fact, I'm 71 years old today.
And so the people out there can, today.
Today's my birthday.
Well, happy birthday,
Thanks
Mike. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And you're celebrating it here in the
happy to be here.
I'm glad of that. Don, what is the? I'm going to say this. What if you could change anything about today for tomorrow in the clown world, in the clowning business? What would it be?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, I wish I could give you an answer. I don't know.
We talked before we went on the air about not as many clowns as there used to be.
Well, there isn't, but that's only because there are a few people joining fraternal groups. There are fewer Masons, there are fewer Shriners. We're all getting a little older, and consequently, our pool of people who want to be clowns. And there's a lot of people who would like to be clowns, but when they find out the amount of work involved, the time involved, they say, "Oh, I just don't have the time for that." Maybe a magic wand that I could put this makeup on in 30 seconds as opposed to 1 hour. But that's I wish more people were involved in Masonry, involved in the shrine, because if there are fewer Shriners, that's less ability to support the hospitals.
It seems like all the groups, I've talked to a member of the Lions Clubs,
Sure.
the Rotaries,
JCs.
they're all Eagles, all these groups, unfortunately in regression. Why do you think that is?
Oh, I think television has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Back in the 40s and 50s, when all these fraternal groups were at their peak as far as numbers, it was then television came along and say, "Hey, Tuesday night's lodge night, or Tuesday night I've got a Qantas meeting. I Love Lucy's on Tuesday night. I want to stay home and watch it." I think that had a lot to do with it.
We talked a lot about Masonry. If you wanted to have somebody, or if somebody wanted to be a Shriner, let me put it that way. If they wanted to be, what do you do at the meetings? Why would you want to show up Tuesday instead of watching I Love Lucy?
To the Masonic body?
To the
Shriners.
Shriners. Yeah.
Well, the shrine, like I say, is the fun element of thing, and most Shriners I know love to have a good time, and we have a good time together. And I think the clowns are the epitome of the Shriners as far as having a good time together. But it's a fraternal group where you enjoy the company of other guys and just hang out and have a good time.
And the basic focus of the shrine is to fund these hospitals.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's a tremendous thing.
Yeah.
At the meetings,
and doing so, we have a good time in the process.
At the meetings, are they oriented with a certain message? Do you have speakers? How does that?
Oh, occasionally we'll have a speaker in, but usually it's not. And we just conduct the business meeting. It usually has hey, do we need to replace the air conditioner in the building? We need new sound system, things like that. And where do we go to get the money? Things like that. That's what the basic business. There's no educational component.
Is there a difference? But are there just is it all Aladdin Shrine, or is there a separate group?
Aladdin Shrine. I forget how many shrine temples there are in the country, like maybe 200, but and there's about over 300,000 Shriners in North America. The shrine temples, there's one in Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, Akron, Cleveland, and Toledo. So there are that many shrine temples in the country. And when I say temple, all of the shrine is kind of based on an Arabic theme, and it's most of the temples have some sort of an Arabic name. It has nothing to do with the Muslim religion or anything related to Islam, but it's just that's how it happened to be evolved back in the late 1800s.
Where did the Aladdin get its name from? How did it become Aladdin?
Doggone if I know.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's
Aladdin's been around since the early 1900s, and I have no idea. In fact, Warren Harding was Aladdin Shriner.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So we learned something there.
Yeah. He was very active in the shrine.
Really?
Yeah.
One thing, I want to part on this question, Don, because I think this is kind of important, because I think the majority of this has been about shrining, and obviously
Sure.
that's how you became a clown, and,
Yeah.
and masonry involved there too. But if you could tell somebody what a shriner does, what makes you a shriner, what would you say to them?
What makes me a shriner?
Yeah.
I pay my dues.
Right. So, well, what is it internally about that group? Why that group instead of all the other
Again,
ones?
I think it was a wanting to associate with some people who I know that were good masons, who evolved and went on to become Shriners, and I liked being around them. They were fun guys, and they said, "Toots, come on, why don't you join the Shrine?" I said, "Okay, well, I'll do it." and I've never been sorry I've joined Masonic Body or the Shrine.
Being a serious person in life, and we'll part on the, being a serious person in life, was it ever, back 30 years ago, did you think, maybe I don't want to be a clown?
Oh, I had some tough times, yes. Like I say, I wondered, I first of all, I was hesitant because I saw the Aladdin clowns, and they were good. And they just weren't people who put on makeup and walked down the street waving. I mean, they all had shtick, they all had gimmicks, what we call parade gimmicks. I have multiple parade gimmicks. I could go on and on about that. But I thought, I want to do that. And so I asked a physician friend of mine, a guy named Dr. Judd Wilson, a good personal friend, and he said, "Oh, Toots, you don't want to do that. You want to join the medical unit." And I said, "No, I really want to become a clown." And I said, he said, "They're too tough to get into." And so I was hesitant to do it. And finally I said, "No, I'm going to do it." And but like I say, it took a couple, 3 years to learn how to be a good clown, but then never sorry I made that jump.
Favorite gimmick?
I have many pocket gimmicks as far as pocket magic. I have parade gimmicks. One of my parade gimmicks is I'll just share a couple of them. I have a suitcase, and it says, on one side it says, instead of "I love my dog," I have a spade symbol, a card spade. I spade my dog. But then I turn around. This is an R-rated suitcase. Hide your eyes, lady. I'm embarrassed to show you what's in it. And I open. There's a saxophone and violin. It's just filled with sax and violins, and it's just stupid things like that.
That's good.
Or I've got a big red X, and I got a whisk broom, and I clean. I said, "I need a Kleenex," and it just those are parade gimmicks as opposed to just walking and smiling. And we all have parade gimmicks. I've got dozens of them.
I tell you, Don, this has been really a fun conversation. I've
Well,
enjoyed this a lot. I feel I've learned a lot. Thank
Scott,
you.
I appreciate the invite, and happy to be here, bud.
Thank you. Hope you come back in the future.
Anytime.
Don Tootle, one happy guy, Aladdin Shrine clown. Very fun. If you get a chance, go to the circus every March in Columbus, Ohio, and contact the Shrine if you have a sick child. That's very helpful.